So morning everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Please may I just ask that you all put yourself on mute. If you do have any questions while we doing our presentation, you can unmute yourself, or you can just write it in the chat box, and I will be more than happy to ask the question on your behalf. So welcome, Alison. We're so delighted to have you with us today.
No, you're quite right.
Let's just 1 second. Let me just see someone's not muted. Okay, we sorted that out. Alison is the founder member of Revo Consultant. She is a GENIS certified emotional intelligence practitioner and life coach, holding MA in industrial psychology. She backs a multidisciplinary approach with 25 years of experience in business change management, consultancy, and project management. Now, Alison's CV is way too long, so I'm not going to all of it. I'm just going to hand you over to Alison. Just one last thing, on the right of your computer, you will have a speaker view. If you want to see Alison on your main screen, just click on that. Thank you, Alison, for joining us, and I hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for this wonderful opportunity to speak to so many people about a topic that I'm so passionate about. And it really just feels to me like over the last few months, there've been so many opportunities to really engage with this topic and to learn about it. And I know it's a bit of a buzzword, resilience. It's been in a lot of magazine articles and a lot of blog posts and a lot of webinars. So what I've tried to do today with the presentation today is to make it as everyday resilience as possible. I have a presentation. It doesn't mean that you can't put your hand up if you have a question during the presentation. I really miss facilitating in person because I miss that interaction that we get when we're in person. So if you have a question or if you want to put up your hand, you're very welcome to. And I will try and keep an eye on the chat box as well as the screen as we go along. So I'm going to share my screen. It'll just take a second just to load up. But in the meantime, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Sharon. I always feel very old when I read 25 years experience. It does sound like a really long time. Great. So today we're going to be talking all about building resilience. Just give me a thumbs up. Make sure everyone can see the screen. Everything okay there, Sharon? You're all good?
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Right. But before we start with today's presentation, just want to ask you to really think about how are you engaging here today? And there's a number of different ways that we can choose to engage when we are attending, especially online presentations, such as the one that we're doing today. And it all comes down to how focused and present we are in this moment. And I'd like you to really think about how are you showing up. So there's 3 different ways that we can show up. And I'm going to be talking a lot to you today about the brain and how the brain works, because it's pivotal to us being able to understand resilience and some of the emotional intelligence concepts. So the first way that we can show up when we are attending a seminar or I think somebody's just unmuted themselves. If I could just ask them just to go back on mute, that would be great. The first way we can show up is we can show up, and it's a psychological term called with a bit of a monkey mind. Now, the monkey mind is that kind of mindset where you're all over the place. You're pretty scatterbrained. And if you think about, especially in Durban, we've got a great example. The troop of monkeys come through my garden every single afternoon. They're in the tree, they're on the fence, they're by the pool, they're back in the tree, they're on the thatch umbrella, they're on the wall. they're all over the place. And a monkey mind, if anyone does any meditation, is that mindset where you really struggle to pay attention in the moment. Or perhaps, and this is what I've termed the magpie brain. Now the magpie, if anyone knows about a magpie, the magpie is always looking for that next shiny thing. So maybe you're sitting here watching the presentation, but you're waiting for that phone call at 9:15, or you're expecting the doorbell to ring, or you know that that somebody's going to be coming to visit today, and so you are thinking about what you're going to be having for lunch. And finally, that Zen-like state where there are no distractions. You've probably already put your phone onto airplane mode. You've closed your office door or closed your room door, and you are deciding to be present for the next hour. So rate yourself between a 1 and a 10, depending on where you sit in this mindset continuum. Now, the thing is, it really doesn't matter how you are showing up. There's no judgment in terms of how you are showing up here today. But the only thing that does matter is really about whether or not you can make a slight adjustment, a very slight adjustment that will allow you to show up in the best possible way in this presentation that we are doing today. So you can add to the chat and you can just let us know how you are deciding to show up here today. Great. Now, for some reason, I can't get the chat on my screen, so I'm going to rely on Sharon just to help me if anyone has, here we go. Now I found it. Perfect. Right.
Okay, Alison, I'm looking at the chat the whole time, so it's fine. I'll
Great,
let you.
thank you. So what is that one thing that you can do right now to help you to move closer to being able to be present, to being able to pay attention? And the one thing I like to say with my clients is show up in such a way that you're telling your brain that you have decided to engage. We need to give ourselves these intentional instructions because, as you'll see as we go through these slides, our brain is kind of operating on its own, often operating on its own agenda. Wonderful, Avasha. Avasha is one of my past students in my resilience course, so she knows all about my Zen-like a brain and how I like to move people closer to that state. Okay, so moving on. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Sharon. So my business is called Revo, and at Revo Consultant, what we do is I like to work with businesses, I like to work with leaders, with business owners, and really help them to understand how the people in their organizations feel about each other. Because when we can understand how people feel about each other, the emotions that sit behind some of our behaviors, we can start to influence how motivated people are, how engaged people are, and we know that those two things affect our results. Today we're going to go through what resilience is. I've got 5 everyday resilience skills that even after this session this morning, you will be able to apply straight away. And then 5 factors that you can think about as you go through your day, either in your personal or your professional life, really to help you to influence your ability to practice and boost resilience. But what you will see as I go through these slides is that what resilient people do is not special. We are all already resilient. And if you don't believe me, I will, by the end of the presentation, I hope that you do. So, what does resilience mean to you? Please put it into the chat box and let me know what resilience means to you. So when you hear the word resilient, what concepts, what ideas, what emotions come up for you even? Because often some of these personal skills, some of these competencies have quite deep-seated emotions when we think about them. Sam says hardcore, never giving up, strength, keeping going against all obstacles, remaining determined and focused. I love that, Debbie. Sharon, spring into shape. Yes. And on the 1st of September, I was thinking, you know, it's all about springing into exactly that. It's about choosing to adapt, pushing forward, keeping going, don't give up. Well, I've got a really neat way for all of us to remember resilience. And it's 3 letters, C, A, and T, which spells cat. So resilient people cope with stressful or negative situations. Resilient people adapt to the circumstances, but most importantly, resilient people thrive. Exactly, Rita, staying positive. Tessa, perseverance and the ability to cope with what life throws at you. Now, if you are watching this video in replay, I am reading through some of the chat so that you will see what is going on. But just think about, what does resilience mean for you? Because we each have our own definition of what it means. And it really is about that process of being able to adapt and bounce back. But most importantly, what resilience is, and this is where I like to focus my work, is resilience is how we move into a new mindset. So it is about the ability to bounce back. It is about the ability to cope with adversity. It is about the ability to be able to move forward. But most importantly for me and the work that I like to do, it's how do we get our mindsets into this new way of being, into a more empowering way of being, so that we can face our challenges and face adversity. Because let me tell you, we don't develop and we don't boost resilience by avoiding challenges or avoiding stressful situations. We develop and boost our resilience by pushing through challenges. Think about where you were 6 months ago at the beginning of lockdown, and think about all of the things you've been able to achieve despite being in lockdown. Think about some of the uncertainty that you've had to work through, the uncertainty that we've all collectively as a country had to work through, and how we're starting to come through onto the other side of that. That's boosting and building our personal and our professional resilience. I would be a little bit remiss if I didn't share with you how our brain works. I like to think about it like this. In order for us to really get to grips with something and to learn something, to be able to improve it or to adapt to it, we really need to understand the mechanics behind it. So I'm going to take you on a little short journey that'll just give you some insights into how the brain actually works. And there are 2 fundamental things that I would like you to remember about the brain. First of all, our brain is primed for our survival. And this is really important, and I will tell you why. So 5 times a second, not every 5 seconds, 5 times a second, our brain, when we encounter somebody for the first time, when we walk into a meeting room for the first time, when we meet a client for the first time, our brain and the other person's brain is 5 times a second deciding, is this safe or is this dangerous? And how this plays out for us in 2020, because we no longer have dinosaurs and saber-toothed tigers that we have to worry about, is in 2020, our brain is saying, is this a safe opportunity? Is this a safe experience for me to engage with? Or is this dangerous? And in that safe space, our brain at an unconscious level starts to engage with the people and with the experience. So much so that we think more expansively, we think more creatively, we think about it. Think about the last time you had fun doing something. You were actively engaged in that experience, versus where our brain thinks, this feels unfamiliar, this doesn't feel meaningful to me, this feels like uncertainty, stress. Our brain, with the stress hormones, cortisol, actually starts to shut down over time our thinking brain. And so our thinking becomes much more narrow, and our ability to problem solve on the spot becomes diminished. Think about it. The last time you had a difficult conversation with somebody, or even an argument with somebody, and you walked out the room, and 30 seconds later you thought to yourself, I wish I'd said that. That is your brain going into this danger space, this unfamiliar. It doesn't feel meaningful. It doesn't feel like I'm going to get a reward from this experience. And this is very important for us to know, because at an unconscious level, our brain is either moving us away from that risky experience or towards the rewarding experience. But here's the thing. Because our brains are primed for survival, it looks like this. Our brains are primed to notice risk more often than to notice reward. So even at an unconscious level, we are constantly looking out for the dinosaur or the saber-toothed tiger. We're not looking for the nice cuddly teddy bears. And this is because we need to survive. We have to be able to continue on. We have to be able to show up tomorrow. So we have to work really hard at reversing some of this at a conscious level. And that's exactly why I asked you that question at the beginning. How are you choosing to show up here today? It wasn't just about me wanting you to be present in this presentation. It's also about starting to think about becoming more conscious about how we choose to engage in various experiences throughout our personal and our professional life. Now, this might sound really scary to you, but here is the second part of the brain that I want to share with you that we can use to our advantage. Our brain is a massive predicting machine. Think about it. Those of you who are of a similar age to me, you will remember at school, we used to go into the library, and I used to love looking through all the index cards for my library books, or your CD, your rack of CDs. Our brain is like that. Our brain has got all these files, and they're built up with all of our memories, all of the experiences we've had before. So for those of you who have attended one of Sharon's seminars before, you have already got an idea of what the seminars involved and how it might be. So you arrive, and I could see some beautiful, smiley, friendly faces. For those of you who know me, when you see me, you instantly know who I am. So you would smile because you've already got that experience from me. Our brains are predictive machines. And this means that we can start to influence whether or not we're starting to notice the positive, rewarding stuff, or whether or not we're starting to notice the risky, uncertain things. And this is why getting into practices like meditation and gratitude and being present are really powerful habits for us to develop. But let's get back into the business of resilience. And at the very beginning, I said to you, what resilient people do is not special. So just in the chat, if you believe me, put a 1. If you think I'm talking complete nonsense, put a 2. So if you believe that resilient people are not actually that special, put a 1. If you think that resilient people are super special, Superman, Superwoman, put a 2. Let's just get a sense of where everybody is on my thought processes here. Number 1 from Sharon, yes. Oh, I'm seeing lots of ones. Awesome. So I'm talking to a converted audience already. This is wonderful. Excellent. But let's go through this. So I hope you're all ready, because I have a short quiz that has 5 questions, and I would like you to use the chat box to put your answers into the chat box. So question number 1. In the past 10 days, have you had to make some disciplined decisions for yourself about how much time you've spent on social media, watching TV? Maybe you've had to make some decisions about choosing to eat more healthily, get more exercise. Put a yes or no in the chat box. Have you had to make some decisions about being disciplined? Yes or no? So I'm seeing lots of yeses. Wonderful. Even today, perhaps this morning, you really had to make a decision. Yes, I'm deciding to focus and be engaged. Awesome. So you guys all score a point for saying yes. So keep a tally of your points. So you've got a 1 already. And let me tell you, this is the first everyday skill of people who are resilient. And it is self-discipline. So resilient people practice self-discipline. And this is the cornerstone of any good competence, really. Because resilient people make the time available and, most importantly, generate the energy required to do the things that will enhance their physical and emotional well-being. When you first start to get into a practice that requires you to be a little bit more present in every experience that you have through the day, it takes discipline to do something the first time. When you decide to really actively listen to what somebody's saying, it's a practice, and anything that we practice requires self-discipline. So you've all got 1 point already, which is excellent. Our second question, on a scale of 0 to 5, where 5 is absolutely 100%, how aware have you been of your own emotions and feelings over the last 24 hours? So would you say that you have no awareness, in other words, score yourself a 0, or absolutely very aware, score yourself a 5? How aware have you been of your own emotions and feelings over the last 24 hours? A 2 to a 5, 4s and 5s, wonderful. Seeing some great scores here. 3.5 to 5, I love the precision there, Louise. That's fantastic. Excellent. 4, great. So we've got some beautiful scores here. And here's the thing, for those of you who scored above a 3 or below a 3, there's no judgment here. It's just to notice. So if you scored below a 3, it's great because you already have awareness of your emotions. All I might suggest to you is just over the next couple of hours, even as we work through today, just think about and try and be a little bit more present in the moment, and notice some of the blind spots that you might have around where things might trigger you or where an emotion might crop up for you. So start by introducing some gentle, mindful self-awareness activities. Journaling is a wonderful way for you to start to boost this competence. Above a 3, wonderful. This is a strength that you have. But let's not be complacent. Let's leverage our strengths, because when we can leverage our strengths, we can boost other competencies. So on my website, if you go onto my website, I have an emotional awareness tracker. So I've put the URL there for you. It's 10 questions, and you can track your emotions. You can do it over time. You can do it as often as you like, and you can do it like once a month just to see how you're improving. So it's there for you to use. It's complimentary. There's no charge for it at all. And journaling is a wonderful way to introduce self-awareness as well. So if you already have a journaling practice and you found that it's beneficial, maybe just say, add journaling into the chat box and let us know who here already does some journaling. Are you ready for your third question? So the third question is more of a statement, actually. And this says that, you know, we are all biologically equipped to demonstrate empathy. It's part of our basic needs. Next to food and water, the ability to connect with other people is prime. It's one of our primary needs. If any of you've done any studies into psychology, you'll understand Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And empathy is how we connect with other people, how we build rapport, how we create friendships, how we learn about the world around us. Who here does not believe that they are empathetic? Does anyone here think that they don't have any empathy? Because let me tell you, the fact that you might be a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, a niece, a nephew, an aunt and uncle, a friend, a colleague, a client, a supplier, all of these relationships that you have already built over time would have required an element of empathy. So I'm not even going to ask you a question here. I'm going to give you all a 1 for empathy, because it's such a fundamental part of who we are intrinsically. Empathy builds strong relationships and it develops a sense of connectiveness. And yes, we can all work on our own levels of empathy, and there are things that we can do to enhance it, like being more present, appreciating where our emotions are on a day-to-day basis, being aware of other people. Empathy builds, I like to say, it builds a bridge between where I am and where the other person is. Here are some things that you might like to think about where you could practice and boost your empathy. Who can you reach out to today to strengthen a connection? Maybe there's somebody who you haven't spoken to for a couple of weeks. Maybe there's somebody who, because we're not working in our normal everyday environment, you actually haven't seen them. Mindful listening is a great way to boost empathy. I always say to my clients, especially corporate clients, one of the best ways to practice mindful listening and to practice being present is to make eye contact. I find personally, when somebody's speaking to me, when I make eye contact with them, I battle to focus on anything else. So I'm able to focus and stay present and stay engaged in the conversation. So I know I can't make eye contact with you all here today, but I'm staring into my camera, hoping that it looks as if I'm making eye contact. Tune out to tune in. So these have become so vital to our everyday right now. But every now and again, just turn it upside down on your desk, turn your notifications off, put it in your desk drawer, and really just pay attention to the person on the other end of the camera or the person that you're sitting across the dining room table from. Tune out to tune in and boost your empathy. So we've got 3 everyday skills that help us to develop and boost our resilience. Number 1, self-discipline. Number 2, self-awareness. And number 3, empathy. The 4th skill, and you can put a yes or no into the chat box here. I want to know, and let's be honest, have you ever burnt the dinner? Have you ever crashed a car? Have you ever failed an exam? Have you ever hurt somebody's feelings? I can say yes to all 4 of those. So I'm seeing some yeses. Right. The most important question, did you learn from that experience? Now, the fact that I had 3 car accidents in the space of a year when I was 18, It might indicate that when I was 18, I didn't learn from that experience, but from 18 till now, I've not had any more car accidents, so hopefully I did. But absolutely, Louise is saying absolutely. The most important thing, it doesn't matter if you burnt the dinner, if you crashed a car, failed an exam. I mean, I failed Psych 1 and I went on to become an industrial psychologist. So if I'd allowed that to derail me in year 1 at university, how would the following 6 years of varsity look like for me? I might not have even got there. Did you learn from that experience? Very important when we're thinking about developing and boosting resilience. And I'll tell you why. Because resilient people are comfortable with asking for and receiving feedback. Resilient people have an element of vulnerability about them. And they are very happy to say, I'm really sorry that I did that. How can I improve next time? What could I do differently next time? Or I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. I acted out of turn, or it wasn't intentional. It's really just about being vulnerable enough to ask for that feedback. Resilient people learn from their mistakes. If we don't learn from our mistakes, we don't bounce back. We don't move forward. So make it a habit, and this requires self-awareness, that competence number 2, to reflect on your triggers, to understand your strengths and your blind spots. For those of you who work in corporate and who have a boss, engage with your boss. Let them know that you are actively and curiously investing in your own development. So you would like feedback on A, B, and C. This helps you to boost your resilience. And our 5th competence and our everyday competencies for resilience. Here is your question. Do you plan your day? So if you plan your day, if you have a scheduler, if you have a diary, just pop a yes. So I'm just going to go back. Tessa says, usually the second time, you're obviously talking about learning lessons. At 8 a.m. still learning. Yes, Tessa, it's wonderful. Every day is a school day. A quick sorry is always the best, 100%. Right, so I'm getting some yeses here. We plan our days. Do we plan our days? Wonderful. Do you also plan your day to get sleep, to plan some time to prepare healthy food, to go grocery shopping so you're not left just scrounging in the fridge for quick meals, or that packet of crisps, is hiding at the back of the cupboard? Do you plan time for exercise, time in nature? Do you plan all of these things into your day? Because the other thing, and the 5th competence about resilient people, is they are intentionally positive. Now, I don't mean that rah-rah, running around, singing, always smiling, always beaming. Yes, we can be like that. What I mean is we are intentionally planning for positive experiences that boost our physical and our emotional energy, mindset, and wellness. Okay, so think about being intentional today. How can you live in the present moment? Just catch yourself when you find yourself drifting. Even now, maybe you're thinking about what's for lunch. Maybe you're thinking about your next meeting. It's fine. Notice, bring yourself back into the present moment. Breathing is a wonderful way for us to remain calm. Take 3 deep breaths, and the next time you feel triggered by something, and plan for things that will bring you joy, that will bring you connection, and increase your likelihood of positive emotions. So who here? So Sumesh, I think Sharon said you plan very well. So Sumesh, my challenge to you is go through your diary. How much in your diary today is going to bring you joy, add to your ability to connect to other people, and inspire positive experiences and emotions? Let's just do that check on a daily basis to make sure that we are intentionally bringing positive experiences into our day. So I'm pleased to say you all scored 5 out of 5 there, because you all had so many yeses. And these are our 5 key resilience competencies: self-discipline, self-awareness, empathy, vulnerability, being intentionally positive. Does anyone have any insights around these 5 competencies? If you would like to unmute or just share some thoughts, I'm very happy for you to do so. Just maybe type into the comment box unmute, and then I know who wants to speak. Otherwise, we can save for the end. Is anyone putting their hands up? Otherwise, I'll carry on. Okay, cool. It looks like I'll carry on. We can have time for a chat afterwards. My most important piece of advice to you, though, and I love this quote by Carl Jung. Now, Carl, for those of you who did any psychology in part of your studies, you'll know that Carl Jung was one of the fathers of psychology, and his theory of individuation was the first theory where we first start to see about the importance of bringing things into consciousness. So we start to behave more out of conscious and intentional ways rather than at an unconscious level. And he talks about every advance in mankind has been connected with an advance in self-awareness. So always look to self first. Notice what triggered me. Why did I have that emotion? What emotion was it? Why am I feeling like this? Really start to bring that awareness. This will really facilitate and help you to be able to bounce back, to be able to move forward. The last thing I'd like to share with you are 5 factors that you can use on a daily basis to influence your ability to develop and boost resilience. Now, these 5 factors, I know that the screen is very small, but for anybody who would like to receive the infographic of this sheet, you're very welcome to email me. I can just see my email. Sorry, my email address has actually just been cut off on the bottom there. But it is alison@revoconsultant.com, and I will send you this infographic. I'll put my email address into the chat. So the first factor we can look at when we are thinking about boosting our resilience is thinking. And this really comes down to adopting a positive attitude. We know that a positive attitude is far better for us from an emotional wellness as well as a physical wellness. Did you know that positive people have a much stronger immune system? Studies were done where people who had the influenza virus, they were broken into 2 groups of people, and the one group of people were primed for positive emotions, positive mindset, positive experience. The other group of people weren't necessarily primed for negative, but they were given more of a neutral experience. And the study showed that those people with the positive experiences were less likely to get a secondary infection after getting a flu virus for the first time. Now, this study was done way back many years ago. Think how important that is for us now, given where we are globally. So embrace healthy thoughts. Keep things in perspective. A wonderful way to keep things in perspective is to talk it through with other people, build connections with other people. Understand the role that your thoughts play every day and accept change as part of the process. There are things that we can and we can't control. When you're feeling triggered or you're feeling uncertain about something, ask yourself, what can I control right now? And focus on those things. The second factor, relationships. Nurture those connections, practice empathy, prioritize those key relationships in your life. And one of my top tips is to communicate, to share and understand rather than communicate to stand in judgment of. Judgment, all judgment does is it pulls us away and it distracts us from the present moment. Wellness, practice healthy habits, make sure you get some sunshine, connect with your friends, do some intentional planning. When you've had a day that feels like it's been uncertain and stressful and you're worried about the outcome from that day, do yourself a favor and take 5 minutes at the end of the day and just reflect quietly by yourself and think, what could I have done differently? What could I have done more of? What should I have done less of? So get into that reflective practice. 2, give yourself that feedback loop. Focus on your strengths, but in order for us to focus on our strengths, we have to understand our strengths. So really get to know yourself a little bit
Go and
better.
sit in that chair.
And then lastly, pro-social behavior. This is so important for me. So what are we doing to promote positivity in our communities? So avoid the negative chatter on social media. Don't even comment, just swipe next. Avoid the negativity in your WhatsApp groups, just mute them. Maybe if you have to, just bomb them with lots of sunflower emojis or smiley faces, but avoid the chaos. So when you are feeling uncertain or when you're feeling a little bit stressed, one of the best things we can do to boost our own resilience is to look outside of ourselves. What could we do for somebody else? Volunteering is a wonderful way for us to boost our own self-esteem, our own level of our own empathy, and just that feel-good factor, that dopamine that we need for us to feel positive all the time. So I will share this infographic with anybody who would like it, and I'll pop my email address into the chat box in a second.
Alison, I've already done that. I put you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Pleasure.
that, Sharon.
Pleasure.
So I have a saying, resilience is as resilience does. And we've kind of gone very fast through what is actually a 4-week resilience course, and Avash has completed my course already. And I encourage you, when we want to do something, when we want to be something, when we want to develop a skill, when we want to boost a competence, we have to go and do certain things. So those 5 things again: self-discipline, self-awareness, empathy, vulnerability, intentionally positive. I challenge you today to think about where you might be able to add one of those into your day as we go through the rest of today. Thank you for the opportunity to present this to you today. I love this saying by Henry Ford: whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are usually right. It speaks directly into that 5th one, which is being intentionally positive. So I encourage you to always think you can and work out how you're going to do it later. Thanks very much. If anyone would like to connect with me, I am on LinkedIn, and I have a Facebook page. So it's Alison J. Coates on LinkedIn, which I absolutely love for all my corporate connections. And Sandy is one of my connections from LinkedIn. We connected over lockdown. And on Facebook, I'm on Revo Consultant. So I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to open up for questions, conversation, and debate.
Alison, can I just thank you so much. I must say I didn't know what we're going to be, how that's going to be, and I think this was one of the best webinars I've ever hosted.
Thank you.
Amazing. All the things, a lot of things that you said that we already do, but a lot of things that we actually need to think about doing. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And yes, if anyone's got any questions, and if anyone wants recording, please just email me, because I did record it. Just looking in the chat box.
Yes. Thank you.
The 4-week course, I think, will be a fantastic one to do.
Has anyone got what's your biggest insight or your biggest aha from today? Did anyone have one of those light bulb moments? I can see Sam's unmuted.
Yeah,
Sam.
as you started speaking, I've got my computer in front of me, my phone next to me, and my laptop, and you asked how we are going to be present in the moment, and it's probably the first webinar that I've turned everything off. Taken notes. So that was a huge revelation from me. I feel that I'm always multitasking, and you can't do everything well when you're doing it that way.
Yes, it's such a vital lesson for all of us. And I think that we all, especially now, when we're all working from home, there's so many online meetings. The working day doesn't seem to start at 8 and finish at 5. It just seems to be 24/7. I was on Monday night, I was on a webinar to the UK at 9:30 on Monday night. I mean, by the time I got to bed, I was just beside myself.